Welcome back to another episode of the Experiential Travel Podcast, where the mission of this podcast is to empower entrepreneurs to create unique experiences so that their guests can create more lifelong memories with their loved ones. Basically, it is to create cool experiences, to get out of a big city, to experience nature so that their guests can create lifelong memories. I remember the first time I stayed in a property like that, and the feelings I got were just amazing, incredible, and there is no one on this planet that does it better than our guest today. If you have seen Yellowstone, they have basically created Yellowstone as a property, as an experience, but Yellowstone on steroids, and Yellowstone hopefully with a lot less killing. I am so excited to learn all about their property. They have 6 cabins in Whitefish, Montana, and these cabins, there's aesthetic cabins, and then there's this. I mean, they have taken design, architectural concepts and pushed the limits. Everything looks intentional. Everything looks like it's meant to be on the land that they have. They surround their experiences around Clydesdale horses, which are just incredible. I know this much about Clydesdale horses, and I know that they're horses, and that is it. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions about Clydesdale horses in general, and basically their whole story. I am so excited to introduce our guest today on the Experiential Travel Podcast, Mr. Matt Arnold-Ladensack.
Hey there. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for joining us. I am so excited to talk about your property. I first want to talk about how you and Ben started this. I know that you guys started on a smaller piece of land with an old century cabin and then built 3 and then kind of transitioned into Whitefish. Take me all the way back to the beginning. How did you guys meet, and then how did you start this whole journey?
Yeah, so I was living in Los Angeles, and Ben lived in Fernwald, Germany, and he grew up breeding Clydesdales as a hobby with his father. So that was kind of unique and cool. We actually met in Michigan when I was directing a film there, and went back and forth from Germany to the U.S. until we decided, okay, we need to figure out who's going to move where. So we decided Ben would move to my little apartment or my condo that I had in Glendale, California. And so he moved in, and we just kind of were thinking, what are we going to do? Because Ben was a veterinarian for horses, so he was a large animal vet. And he sold his practice in Germany, and he didn't want to take all of his tests over again. So I was a little burnt out by the film industry. It's just long hours and crazy and a lot of fun, but we wanted to do something new. So Ben got an opportunity to sell ultrasound machines, and that took us up to the Pacific Northwest. So we moved to Southwest Washington, about 45 minutes north of Portland, and we created at first we just bought 7 acres, and it was an old farmhouse that we had. It was probably over 100 years old. So we renovated the whole farmhouse. And then there was this really gross looking manufactured home, up on one of the hills on our property. So we removed that, and we had septic and power and everything there. So what we did was we had so many people wanting to stay with us because of the Clydesdale horses. We thought, let's create an experience where people can come stay and learn about the horses and get to, pet them and interact with them. So that was the beginning.
Okay. So you're working as a director. You convince Ben to move from Germany into the States. How was that process? How was getting the visa? How was that whole process moving to the US?
It wasn't too hard. We actually didn't even use an immigration lawyer, but we got married. So we married each other, and then we started that immigration process. So once that was kind of all wrapped up, we could kind of go wherever we wanted to do and do whatever we wanted to.
What drew you from LA to Washington?
Yeah, so Ben got a position selling ultrasound machines with a company that we thought would be in Carlsbad, California, but they told him he needed to relocate to either Seattle or Portland.
I gotcha.
And so we decided to be closer to Portland, but we found that property. So we were like, oh, that's cool, when we were close enough.
That's amazing. And then you renovate this old cabin and then have an extra place to build a cabin. Who has, out of you two, or if any, has like a construction background or any idea on, because I know when I first started, the idea of renovating stuff, I've been shooting content for the last decade, and then the idea of using a drill or a hammer was foreign to me. So I had to like learn that stuff. Did you guys have any previous knowledge in it, or how did you guys learn?
Yeah. So the farmhouse was like really cool, and it just needed a lot of like love as far as, just design. So I have a lot of design in my background. So that was easy for me to kind of like come up with. As far as like the construction side of it, so there were 3 cabins that we built on that one hill on the property where the manufactured home was. And they were super tiny. They were based off of like treehouse models. And we just put them up on these pedestals. So it was pretty cool. They looked really neat up on the hill. But we did hire a contractor to do that. But we had the plans and everything. And then Ben, his family had a construction and like, roofing company for probably 200 years in Germany in the same town. So he kind of came from that background. Although he didn't do a lot of the work, we were both working our full-time jobs at the time. You
mentioned that there was Clydesdales at that first property. Now I know Ben's background in Germany with big animal as a veterinarian. How did the Clydesdales go into picture in Washington?
Yeah, so when we moved there, we didn't have Clydesdales. We actually lived in an apartment while we were like trying to get that property. And so in between all of that time, we were figuring out, okay, what horses do we want to have at the property? And so Ben had one Clydesdale that he absolutely loved. And with Clydesdales, it's a vulnerable breed of horse. So there's not a bunch of Clydesdales around anymore. They don't really need to use them to build buildings or like farm or do that kind of stuff since we have all the machinery. But it's really important that you keep bloodlines and you kind of like diversify the bloodlines. So we thought it would be really cool if we brought one of the bloodlines that he developed in Germany over to the United States. So we flew one of the Clydesdales that was there, Isabel, to Washington, or she had to go through a bunch of different things and quarantine and then finally make it there. And then we bought one from our friends in Sandpoint, Idaho, who got it from Budweiser, which is Warm Springs Ranch where they breed the Clydesdales there.
That honestly might be the coolest story I've ever heard ever. So I want to know more about that. You shipped over a Clydesdale from Germany. Does Ben's family have Clydesdales at their place in Germany?
They did, yeah. And they actually, I think, sold the last one a few years ago. So they don't have them there anymore.
And then was she one of the horses that your family had, or did you guys just like find a Clydesdale in Germany?
It was one of the Clydesdales that they had and actually like bred and had the baby. And so it was actually one of the first, I think, Clydesdale births that I had ever like been in Germany for.
That's so that was so cool. That's so cool. What is that like? What is that? I know nothing about like breeding horses and keeping a bloodline. What is that? Yeah. What does that mean? What does that like entail? What does it mean for the people that are doing it, but also for the horses?
So it's really important, like I said, to diversify those bloodlines. And what we do is we try to take like award-winning bloodlines and then like breed them together so that like one might have been like the world champion for halter class and one might be one for driving, carriage or something like that. And then what you try to do is, of course, figure out like what genetically are you trying to get? Like, do you want to have a really tall horse, a really big, broad horse, like things like that? And then what like a sentiment, I guess, are like judges looking at? And so like in the United States, they've moved to more of like an athletic look than the old Clydesdale, like huge, massive horse. So you'll see like more of those winning different competitions and things like that. So Ben, being a veterinarian and being in the horse fields and industries. He is so knowledgeable about all of the different bloodlines. So he can like know a horse's grandmother and great grandfather.
Oh
like
my goodness.
so, and it's really like amazing because like people who are in that industry know it very well.
So you're living in 45 minutes outside of Portland. You have this cabin. You get the second one built. I guess the first one that's not your primary, built for family and friends. Did you build all three of them at the same time? Did you build 1, 2, 3? How was that build process like?
Yeah, we built them all at the same time because we wanted it to open as like Clydesdale Outpost, which was our first. We basically carried the name on to what our company is now.
So Clydesdale Outpost version 1 was in technically Washington, technically Portland. Oh,
it was Amboy, Washington, which is like just northeast of Portland.
Gotcha. So what was that mindset shift of, and if you could kind of elaborate on that mindset shift of basically turning your home into a short-term rental, into a vacation spot, into an experience with Clydesdale. Was it a conversation that you and Ben kind of sat down and said, we should start marketing this and make it an experience? What was that like, that business mindset shift?
Yeah. When I was living in LA and in the film industry, I had a lot of friends with different properties there. And so I kind of dabbled with helping them like design their guest rooms and things like that because they wanted to rent stuff on Airbnb and other short-term rental platforms. So I had a lot of experience like setting those up. And then my parents wanted to do it. And I had a place in Palm Springs that I owned and I rented out. So I had a lot of experience with short-term vacation rentals prior and like just the process and dealing with customers and guests and figuring out like what's kind of a cool experience and what do people like and not like. So basically we kind of had that in our pocket already, but we didn't have it as like a bigger experience. And so we wanted to create something and we were like, I think just fully on board. It must have been a conversation at one point, but I think what Ben wanted to do was build a barn, and there's really cool Timberline barns that we get. We work with Timberline on all of our builds, which is just like a timber frame company. And so I said, well, if you buy that barn, then I'm going to build 3 cabins and we're going to call it Clydesdale Outpost. And I think we just had that moment and he was like, okay.
I love it. So from day one, you guys were on the same page, knew what you guys wanted to do and did it. That's incredible. How was that first Clydesdale Outpost version 1 renting out and doing? And then I kind of want to know how it was performing, but then what made you pivot and think, okay, this is good, but we need to do this at a larger scale?
Yeah. It was like overwhelming because like we didn't host events like we do at our new Clydesdale Outpost. And we also didn't really have anything open to the public as far as like horseback rides or sleigh rides and things like that. So it was like definitely a small scale. People could just stay there and then they like to pet the horses and, have maybe like a Budweiser and feel like they're a part of like the Clydesdale community. And it was really fun. And we like booked out completely. It was like, I think after like 6 months, it just started like rolling in and we're like, wow, this is like really viable business opportunity and something unique and niche that we like both know and can do. And we still, like I said, we had full-time jobs. So we were both working that and running the small version of Clydesdale Outpost. So it was like just all over the place. We had neighbors who were like our cleaners. And so it was definitely like a little hodgepodgey. It wasn't like as sophisticated, but I guess like the moment that we decided to make it a bigger operation was we just had a lot of issues with our county because we wanted to be classified as a guest ranch and not like short-term rentals. And the county at the time.
What's the difference between those two, just for our audience?
Well, for short-term vacation rentals, you could rent like residential properties and do that. We're a guest ranch. People can come hang out. They can stay with us. They can experience Clydesdale activities, things like that. And that's what we wanted to become.
More like a commercial property that offers like experience.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah. And like all over the United States, there's different zoning types, right, of land use, I guess you would say. And most rural areas, and we were still in a rural area, have something called a guest ranch. And so we were like kind of fighting them on that. And then they wanted to give us a fine because they were like, we don't want to do that. And we actually had the whole county vote, like all the counselors vote, and they voted unanimously to approve guest ranches. But then it was going to take like another year or something to get it all through. And we were like, you know what? We know this is going to be a success. We know it brought in a ton of business to our little area, and people were like going to all the restaurants and bars and stuff. So we were like, you guys can either like work with us and like make this something awesome, or we're going to leave. And so they like sent me a letter, and it was going to fine us like $100,000 or something, just something absurd. And so I just literally took that note, I ripped it up, and I put that house on the market.
That is,
and then we started hunting for like a big location, and we were like, okay, we have 7 acres. Now let's look for like 100 acres.
Yeah. I talk about this a lot on this podcast, and I feel like what we're doing when it comes to experiential travel, where people can stay in places that allow them to disconnect and allow them to then reconnect with their loved ones, is such a new concept. This is not a hotel. This is not a bed and breakfast. This is a place to have an experience, but then also spend the night, right? And I think that counties in real time are making up their legislation. I can't pronounce that word. Their regulations. We'll stick to regulations. They're making the regulations up right now, right? They're making up how they're going to permit and accept these properties that are being built in real time. So, and then the importance of having that community is that you're bringing so much tourism and money into the other businesses of the county. And the county is actually benefiting very strongly from the experiences that you're providing. And I think it's a hard message to push out, because we run into the same thing. I've interviewed a bunch of people that also run into the same thing and dealing with their counties, because they all want their tax money, right? They all want their money coming into them, and they see that you're profiting so much. And then they look back and they say, well, we want a slice of the pie here. And it's definitely a very interesting that you've run into a very similar situation like that. So you get that note from the county, you rip it up. That's a pivotal changing moment in your life. It's like, it's like Batman putting on the mask for the first time. You then start looking for a bigger place. What drove you to choosing Montana as your market? Yeah.
So we wanted to have a property that was large enough for, doing all the activities we wanted to do. That was one thing we needed to check off. We needed a property that we were like, we don't want to deal with zoning or anything like. So we were looking for properties specifically that were no zoning, no covenants, things like that. And we wanted to be close to something, of course, that brought in a lot of tourism, so that we could like piggyback upon that. And I'm sure you've talked to a lot of other people, and just being a person who has rentals yourself, like you want to be close enough in proximity to some type of big city or something, right? But Montana isn't close to big cities. Like it's very, there's 1 million people in the whole state, but we have Glacier National Park, which brings in around 3 million people a year. So that's something that we were like, okay, like in the airport that they would fly into is about 20 minutes from there. And we're 45 minutes from the entrance of the park.
That's amazing.
So that was something we were like, okay, we could play into that. And then
really quick there is we came up with this concept of the 60-30-10 rule. 60 minutes from a big city, 30 minutes from your final destination, and then 10 minutes from civilization. And so just like what you said, having that final destination of people of already tourism coming to a place and then capitalizing off of pre-existing tourism, and preferably something that's not man-made and has been there and is going to continue to be there. That's why we chose the Grand Canyon. That's why I'm not going to say that's why you guys are successful, but I think that plays in a role of your occupancy rate because you already have pre-existing tourism. So I think that's super awesome. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And also like we wanted something that like worked with the historic and cultural charm that we brought, like with draft horses and things like that. So Montana is like the perfect place for that. And then Whitefish is such a cute town. Like it's adorable. It has amazing coffee shops and wine bars and just a lot of really community driven events. And so like I crave like being a part of a community and always wanted to live somewhere with 4 seasons. We have a ski mountain that's like 20 minutes away and it's really nice and privately owned. It's really cool. So there were so many like things that when we found this was the first property we looked at, we just said, this is it. We need to figure out how to get it.
That's incredible. So you go from Washington, you find the property in Whitefish. What is currently on the land that you bought? So what was the pre-existing structures looking like?
We didn't have anything on the land. It was just bare land. So
that's amazing. Did you guys have utilities as well, or was it completely raw?
Everything was raw. There was power that we could pull from the road. That was it.
That's incredible. So you bought raw land and it's 100 acres.
Yeah, right? It's 92 acres. Yeah. And it's all backed by the Stillwater River. So the whole property is backed by a river.
Did you go into it knowing like how are we going to get water? How are we going to do septic? How are we going to get power? And then was that part of your escrow period, or were you like, I love this piece of land. We're doing it no matter what. We're going to figure it out after.
Yeah, I would say we probably started planning and like reaching out to the county and the state and everything even months before we even submitted an offer. So we were just like trying to figure out like, okay, what do we need if we want to do this? And like, is it allowed? And like, just figuring out all the details. And we would like go walk around town and like pick up, business cards from the windows and things like that for like electricians and things. Cause it's really hard to get good workers out in Montana. There's just not a lot of resources. So we were like, we need to like figure that out. And so that was even before we even submitted an offer. We kind of tried to like line things up. We knew we wanted to build it with timberline products and everything on the property to be timber frame to keep that rustic charm that we were going for. And then, so it was like, we were just like off to the races. The moment we wanted to sell our property, we knew like, okay, we need to like get this figured out and like where we want to go. Yeah. And like how we're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you find the piece of land. Was this already on the market when you guys were looking at it?
It was, yeah. And it had been on the market for a long time, but it was very expensive. Like we would never ever thought we would like afford it. It was, I think the guy, and it's a non-disclosure state. So the seller, I think he bought it for like 2.5 million or something. And then, he listed it for 1.5 and then kept increasing the price. And every time he made an offer, he rejected it and increased the price.
No way.
So we ended up landing at 2.5 million, and that's just for bare land, like nothing else. And so we were like, okay, that's insane. But we made an offer. I think it was Easter, like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And it must've been 3. And we were like, we have no idea how we're going to close it. We just submitted an offer. It was for 4 months escrow. And we were like, okay, if we get this accepted, we'll figure it out. And then it got rejected again. And then he sent a counter offer, and we just signed it. But because it had that 4-month period. And I think it was 3 months. And then there was like a 30-day extension for like financial paperwork or something. Montana has some different contracts than other states. So we were like, okay, we have 3 months to figure it out, but maybe 4 if we really have to extend it.
And then at the time that
Yeah.
you accepted his counter, did you had already sold? Wow. Did you have already sold your property in Washington?
Yeah, we already sold that property, and we were like living in Whitefish in like a rental that we had for like 2 months to like figure
nice.
out.
So you knew Whitefish was the market that you wanted to be in, and then the next option was just finding the land. How stuck were you on finding this particular parcel? Like, how committed were you to this specific parcel compared to like wanting to basically be able to choose anything in the market?
Yeah. This one, like I said, was so appealing because it was like no zoning, no covenants. It was 8 minutes from downtown, and like 20 minutes to ski resort and 45 to Glacier. So it like checked every box. So we were very determined to get this piece of property. And like I said, we didn't really know how we were going to do it. We sent out letters to like similar properties and things like that. And like just kind of like asked around and worked with the title company to get addresses for properties that might be similar and interesting. But we didn't get anywhere with that. And so like this one, we were like, this is like, we got to figure out how to do it because this is it.
I would love to switch gears into how you were able to finance. Now, 2.5 isn't a cheap purchase, especially of raw land. Typically, banks won't lend to raw land. Were you able to do it through seller financing, traditional financing, or cash? Walk me through kind of the financing aspect of it.
Yeah. So the seller said no way to seller financing, which would have been a great option, but just said no way. And he just wanted his money. He was an investor and wanted out. And so we started talking to banks to figure out, okay, like, can we close it and just have the land and then roll that into a construction loan? Or can we just close it all with one big construction loan project and like then immediately get started? And so I think we talked for like 3 months with one specific bank that said, we'll do it, but you need 15% down. And then the whole build itself was like, it was like must have been a $5.6 to $6 million build, like with the land included. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, there were options where we could just get the land and then like figure it out later, but we were like, no, let's like do it and get it all wrapped up in one. And then the bank that we were talking to like later came back like a month before closing and said, okay, you need 50%.
50? 50?
Yeah. And we were like, we can't do that. Like, that's insane. So we scrambled and we found 2 banks. Like we talked to probably like 25 different banks that were like, okay, I think we can get this deal done. One would have been through a just regular like construction loan that you can wrap it in, or one, they also had an option of just securing the land. But every time you do that, you like have to pay for new appraisals and different things like that. So we had a lot of money already invested in like trying to get this property, and every bank wants a different appraisal. Like, and appraisals out here for that kind of like commercial is like $8,000 a pop. Jesus. So it's not cheap. But yeah, basically what happened was we got right down to the wire. We had 2 banks that were like ready to go, and one would have used a not an FHA loan, but like a federal loan for businesses. What are those called? I forget.
Like Fannie or Freddie, but for commercial?
What is it for commercial? There's a certain, like an SBA loan.
I gotcha.
Right? So it's federally backed, but that could have taken a lot longer. And there was a bank that was willing to do it for 25%. The only way we could have closed it all, though, is to get investors. So then we started looking for people who wanted to like be a part of it. But we had to get all of their money into escrow. We had to get our money, which was easy, into escrow. And then we had to kind of like make sure we hit that one deadline. And the seller the whole time is like, I'm not extending it. So, because he wanted to put it back on the market because the rates were like already rising in the area and he knew he could get more money. So at that time, it was like in that weird pandemic time where everything just started doubling and tripling. So we were like, we have to get it closed. And ultimately we did it with this one bank that was just a regular conventional business loan with 25%. And then we had one last investor to get on board, and we found that last minute, thank goodness, or it would never have gone through.
Oh,
and then we made deals with the investors that they could like build on one part of the property and then like be a part of the Clydesdale community, which is like a huge thing. And then got a small percentage in the company as well.
That's incredible.
So
So
it was a wild ride.
you knew you wanted, that's, I mean, it sounds like the most wild ride. And that's,
Yeah, it was very stressful.
I couldn't even imagine. I don't think I would have the patience or the backbone to push through that. But congratulations. I mean, that's incredible. You were able to do the roll the land and the build all into one loan, correct?
Yep, all into a construction loan. So then we only paid interest on that during
Construction.
the construction period. But I mean, still, that's about $16,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, that's
So
crazy. Now, I'd love to get kind of twofold here. I want to talk about kind of your thought concept of the design and the site plan for the property. Mm-hmm. You kind of had an understanding. I mean, before, obviously, to pitch this to investors, but also to pitch it to banks, you have to have some type of concept of what you want to do, placement of where things are going to be, number of units, and a kind of a business model. And then I'd love to know more about how what that design process and conceptual ideation came from and when it came from in that period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like basically when we decided to list our property in Washington, we started designing the cabins for this property. So there was almost like a year in between when we were talking to banks and different things like that, where we just like I said, we were making offers on this piece and we were like getting rejected all the time. So we had some time to get organized, and we worked with an engineer to kind of place the cabins where we wanted them. We knew we needed a barn. We knew we needed a caretaker home for the horses. And we knew that we needed some type of like welcome center. We were going to like turn it into a coffee shop or just a gift shop, which it is now, a gift shop, and kind of like a place where people gather before activities. And then we basically just called it like phase one of the project. And that's where we're at right now and what we have completed. We knew that in the future we would do more, but we would do that later. So we don't have those like engineered and things like that.
Now, from a more tactical standpoint, what did you need to get done in order to secure the financing? Did you have to show projections? Obviously, a site map would be the minimum that you would need. But talk to me a little bit about the paperwork or the things you needed to gather for closing on escrow and your financing.
We had put together a whole business plan. So we used LivePlan, which is an online business planning, I guess, software that you can, I think it's $20 a month or something like that. It's pretty affordable, but it's neat because it like walks you through step by step. So we basically built out like what our ideal client would look like, how we're going to go get them, why they would even come to us. What was really important for the bank to see was the historical records of like our rentals before. So I think if anyone is listening and like dreaming of doing something like this, they want to know that you have experience doing it. So like I would say, even just running an Airbnb and getting financial records, like get something where it shows that you know what you're doing, because they wouldn't have lent us money if they didn't see that we had that first operation, especially that much money, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that business plan was probably like 78 pages or something like that. It was really in depth. It went through like all the nightly rentals, what we would make off of horse activities from horseback rides, carriage rides, sleigh rides, if we sold a horse. Like it was very detailed. And I think that really also like helped them feel confident in us. And then also we both still, I was a real estate broker. So I had like 10 agents that I managed. And then Ben was still doing ultrasound sales. So we had that income backing us. And then we had my parents co-sign on the whole project as well, even though they didn't really have to do much other than just say like, yeah, we'll help back them.
Yeah.
And then the investor money that we had to package that together with that. And I think they required we put like $70,000 into a separate account so that they could like use that to help, lend on different other loans too. So they wanted that secure for like a year or something. So there were a lot of like little factors that came in play.
Yeah. Sounds like it. That's such a great story. And the ability that you two were able to push through all of the no's and all of the pushbacks, it shows testament that how amazing the property came out really stems from the vision, right? So being able to say yes and push through all of the barriers starts with having that initial vision. So I think it's truly incredible to see that come to life. What was the timeline from close and escrow to the build process of the 6 cabins, the barn, and everything else that you have?
Yeah, so we closed, I think it was June 30th, and that was 2022? Yeah. And we immediately started like excavating and doing work. Like literally like the next day I went out and I like chopped down the for sale sign and I put like coming soon up.
It's a little
so
things.
People could, yeah. So like and that's when we started marketing. Like we got into the chamber, like we were like, this has to be a success. So we were like networking with everyone we possibly could. By that time we already had people lined up, like our contractor, and who the bank required that we had a contractor already in place. Cause we were like, oh, we can be our own contractor. Like
Not
we
with
kind
a
of
bank,
knew what we were doing. Like we had gone through builds and things like that already, like with the other property, but the bank wants to know, like, you have a professional, even though a contractor in Montana can just go get a license like anyone can with.
That's amazing.
Like it's crazy. But like looking back, I probably should have just got my contractor license and then like we could have just directed everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's nice to have someone else who's out there,
Absolutely. So you start building the structures. It's raw land. Now, obviously, a big part of setting up these properties are figuring out your utilities. And I know for me, being off grid, that was the hardest thing, right? It was figuring out how we're going to get power, water, and septic. The lot had power, so you were able to pull power from the street into your property. Regarding water and septic, how were you guys able to do that?
Yeah, so it was just working with our engineer to like come up with a plan and everything, and then like what's the threshold of like how many people can be there and all that. So we were like going back and forth, like, can we do it locally, like, and just have the city county do it, or do we have to go through the state? And so I think the state was like a whole year backed up. And we had submitted already those plans, but we needed to open before that. So the county worked with our engineer to, approve things at a certain threshold to get us open, because literally we would have had to just wait until the state, our DEQ, would have approved it. So we were like on a huge timeline because we needed to get open by that next summer. Like that was our goal. So we built through a whole Montana winter. It was like building on the moon out here. Like there was blizzards. It was like insane. You have like amazing video footage of like these guys just like moving these huge cranes with like snow everywhere. It's just like really fun and crazy. But we knew like what we kind of needed beforehand. So we had to do that. And then the nice thing is, like, right while we were building, we were approached by Interbell, which is our internet service. And they were like, we're putting new fiber optic in. Do you guys want that? And we're like, yes. Because we don't really have great cell service. So it was like awesome, because then we could have like data calling or Wi-Fi calling. So.
Yeah. So that's your septic. Are you guys on a well? Were you guys able to pull water lines from?
Yeah, we're on a well.
Nice. And does that well?
So we had to dig wells. Yeah.
Are you guys on one well or multiple wells for the property?
We have 3 wells out here. I think the main build's on 1 well though.
Water, septic, your utilities are done, your construction gets done. You knew kind of the experiences that you wanted to offer. The next part is, I think, the one of the most important parts of creating an experiential travel stay or unique hotel or guest, you call it a guest retreat?
Guest ranch.
Guest ranch. I love that. Creating a guest ranch is your dream team. It's the people it's the lifeblood behind your organization. It's your cleaners, your handyman, your staff. Who consists of your dream team? How many cleaners do you guys have? How many on-site managers do you have? Tell me a little bit about the team that you guys have at your property.
Yeah. And to go back, it's kind of neat because guest ranch designations in Montana are exempt you from a lot of different things. We don't have to go through the same health codes and things like that we would have to, because we have really cool, unique cedar hot tubs. And if we had to go through everything that you would have had to, for a resort or something, we probably would have to drain those after every use. But now we can put bromine in them and kind of maintain them nice. And of course, make sure they're safe. But it's not as strict and not as strict on laundry and things like that. But we did build it like a resort would. We just don't have all the regulations. And that was very appealing to us as well, because everyone knows regulations can just get in your way sometimes. I mean, we really try our best to follow everything to a T.
Yeah, of course.
But it was nice to have those. But to go back to your question, one of the things that all the banks we were talking to was you're never going to find people to work because no one wants to work out on a guest ranch and things like that. And we're I don't know about that. And literally when we started talking in town, everyone found us. We've never had to go out and put a job search out. Maybe for one cleaner or something we did, but we operate it with a guest services manager. And I know there's a lot of bigger properties or similar size properties that have 6 to 7 units that sprout up, and they don't have a full-time guest services manager. They just try to automate everything. But I will say this, that having a guest services manager full-time on salary is life-changing, because they do all of the interactions that we don't have to answer any emails really, unless they're on vacation. Mm-hmm. And then it's very consistent for the guests. And I every penny is worth it that we have Casey, our guest services manager, because our guests leave super happy and they leave us wonderful reviews. We have 5 stars, which is, I knock on wood, we need to maintain that. We always need to elevate our experience. And that's what we really, really work hard on, is keep every time I'm how can we make this more magical? And then we have a full-time equestrian manager, and she does the wrangling from basically all horseback rides and sleigh rides and carriage rides. And she's trained now to drive all of that, which is cool. And then we have, I think, 2 or 3 cleaners that are part-time, and they come in. We pay them a flat fee for a cleaning, because we know it takes about 2 hours. So we give them $80
nice
to clean that. So and our guest services manager organizes all that for us.
That's amazing.
But I don't know how people do it without guest services. Otherwise, they're doing it all on their own.
Yeah. Does the guest service manager have a small team, or he or she by themselves and managing everything?
Yeah.
How's that work?
She's by herself. However, now that we've got through our first year, we're considering just bringing up someone in who can help her if she needs something.
Nice.
But Ben and I are also very hands-on still. I help a lot, especially event planning. And then Ben helps a lot with the horses, obviously, because that's his expertise. So we actually don't have to hire a veterinarian because he's a veterinarian.
I love it.
That saves a lot of money.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
But yeah, we built this business, and this is coming off of deviating, I guess, from your question. But we have our cabin rentals, then we have special events for the community. So that's a different income source, and that actually helps us be a part of the community. So we do a Halloween time event with a haunted hayride. We do Christmas with the Clydesdale event, where we have these VIP igloos that people rent and hang out. We're building an ice skate rink.
Oh my goodness.
Where people can, and we have Santa and Mrs. Claus in the barn. It's super fun. And then we have our welcome center, which is a gift shop. And we also have grab and go, and we're permitted to sell off premise wine and beer. And so even neighbors can come and buy that from our welcome center, which is nice. So we tried to set it up like there's different, and then the horse activities, of course, there's different revenue streams coming into one business. And I think that's really important for people to know, like if you're going to do this, there are other ways to monetize that business.
Yeah, I think that increasing the NOI is so important to do. And I try to do that personally for our stuff as well. I saw that you guys have a gift shop and sell hats. I make hats for fun. It was a stupid COVID project that I started and love it. But you can buy hats in our all of our rentals, and I use it as kind of like a brick and mortar to do it. So I think increasing NOI is so important. What is the percentage of revenue coming into your property regarding these experiences / stays? So like, is majority of your rental or your income coming in the cabin stays, the experiences, the gift shop stuff? Walk me through kind of the percentage breakdowns.
Yeah. So the majority comes from cabin rentals. That's definitely like the moneymaker. Then I would say probably the Clydesdale activities is like the next one. So those activities that we have to, or that we provide. And then the gift shop is probably the last one that like, but now we're also starting to monetize like Facebook. Like we do a lot of reels and stuff, and we're like making around $2,000 a month off just reels.
That's incredible.
So, like, and what we're going to try to do is keep that growing. And because most of the people who come out here are like, oh, we saw you on Instagram or TikTok or online somehow. So it's really cool that can also be monetized too. So, and with my film background, like I can play into that, which is really fun. So like, we're always consistently thinking like, oh, well, what can we do to like monetize something different? But we've only really been open for 1 year. So like our first year, the numbers looked like, I think we made like $750,000 on the cabin rentals, like $70,000 in the gift shop. And then I have to run the numbers on the horse activities, but it's probably somewhere around like 100,000 maybe. So
nice. So bringing in what, a million too?
Yeah, roughly around that amount. Yeah. That doesn't include our activities either. So yeah, I would say like about $1 million, 1.1 is like what we're looking at.
The next step of this whole journey is once you get your property up and running, it's figuring out how to not only get, and you mentioned a little bit, but is to get the guests in, right? And there's tons of booking platforms that people use. What booking platforms are you on? I know that you have your direct booking website and you funnel a lot of reservations from social media into your direct booking channels. Are you on other booking platforms like Airbnb, VRBO? And then what percentage of occupancy is direct bookings? And then what percentage are these other platforms?
Yeah, I don't know the exact percent, but I will say, so our CRM or like our booking platform that we use is WebRes Pro. And we liked that because we could integrate activities into it. So like if a guest wants to book a horseback ride, we can like have that connected to their account and they can just pay from their room. And we also wanted that too. Like if they go to the gift shop, they can like just grab something and we just add it onto their room. So that was like why we went with WebRes Pro, which is out of Canada. And then I would say probably like 85 to 90% are like bookings just from our website, which is amazing. You're on VRBO, but we didn't get any bookings from VRBO. Like it was just weird. So we got off VRBO, but we are on the Expedia group, like One Key, which includes like bookings.com, Expedia, and I think one other big site. And then all of their other subsidiary platforms that they have. And we have significantly seen a lot of increase in those bookings. We are also on Airbnb, and WebRes Pro integrates with all of these. So like, it just depends on how much you want to pay to integrate with these partners and like what partners really bring in things. In Airbnb, we get every now and then. It's weird. Like I've really significantly seen a huge drop in Airbnb bookings. But I also think maybe people find us and then try to find us like on our own website because it could be cheaper to book us directly than, paying an additional fee with like another platform.
Yeah.
So that might be why we don't see those numbers.
But 80 to 90% on direct bookings is just incredible. What is your occupancy rate and then your average nightly rate as well?
Yeah, so our nightly rates vary seasonally. So like right now, I think it's like $399 or something. During ski season, it's like $425, but in the summer, it's about $699.
Oh, wow.
But these are two bedroom, 1 bath cabins with their own cedar hot tubs, and they're all very nice. So you can get like 2 couples in them, and it's not a huge fee then.
Yeah, that's relatively cheap actually, because if you split that over 4 heads, it's only what, $100 a head on average.
Yeah, depending on the season, I guess, that they're staying. And then our occupancy, like we're booked out solid in the summer, like completely. Like there's just no wiggle room or anything. It's like insanity. And then of course we have huge like people just trying to do all the horseback rides and carriage rides and things like that. So it's like insanity. You can't even really breathe, which is nice. So that's really cool. And then we didn't really have a ton, like our first year in April and May. So we were like really nervous about that. And we also saw that October and November were really slow for us too, which is pretty standard for, hospitality. That's why we incorporated our community events, because it kind of kept us afloat and it kept our employees like engaged. And it was just super fun to do. So that's why we kind of like do those activities when we do them, because we don't have like a ton going on with cabins.
This is my favorite segment of all of this. I call it it's a new name. I'm testing it out. If you don't like it, let's brainstorm a new one. But I call it the hill we die on. And it's the whole concept of we've designed properties for mostly ourselves, right? It's your conceptual, it's your baby, it's what you've created from the ground up. And along the way, when guests come, they feel like they have a right to offer a change of your baby. Are there hills that you die on that guests have come in, two cents here. Guests have come in and recommended you guys change something, and then you were like, yeah, that's a good change, let's change that. And then has guests come in, offered to a suggestion on something you changed, and you go, absolutely not, this was designed that way and we are not changing this whatsoever?
Not really. We haven't experienced that yet. I'm sure we will. One thing that we kind of really debated was like, are horse activities included in your stay, or like are they add-ons? But we felt that you get enough value just with the cabin booking for the price that they are, that they could add on a stay. And the other thing is we're not your typical like dude ranch or guest ranch per se. Like we are a guest ranch, but we don't require that people stay on the property and like have all their meals with us and stuff like that. Like we don't have like a kitchen that we cook communal meals at. Like every cabin has their own really nice kitchen. So if they want to, they can cook there. But we encourage them to go into Whitefish and experience those really amazing restaurants that are there. And then also like, book a horseback ride if you want to, but if that's not your thing, then just enjoy the property and you can walk or like float on the river or do something fun, or you can go to Glacier National Park. So like there are guest ranches in our area that like they keep you on that property and like suck you in. But we didn't want to be that. We wanted people to explore everything else that's out here.
That's beautiful. I love that. The last I'm so excited to hear this answer from you. The last segment that we have, obviously we discussed a little bit that this podcast is called Experiential Travel Podcast because I think that what we're offering is an experience, right? It's not just a place to sleep at night. It's a place to disconnect in order to reconnect. And it's really to empower entrepreneurs like yourself to do what you're doing. And a lot of that, for me at least, when I first started, stemmed from I knew the experience I wanted to offer, but I didn't know the actual weight of that experience would create on our guests. I understand just how valuable the experience that I wanted to offer could be for our guests. Do you have a story that kind of resonates and depicts the true essence of Clydesdale and your guest ranch of what this whole place was really founded upon?
Yeah, definitely. The feel that we wanted people to have when they came to the property was to like completely disconnect. So that was another big debate we had, was, do we have like TVs in our cabins? And we actually put it out on our social platform and said, what do you guys want? And it came back 50-50 with like thousands of people like on our Facebook, like saying no. And there was like a big fight about it. And we just decided, no, like we don't want to have cabins because like we have these huge windows. I'm like, that's the TV right there. And we have like bald eagles that fly around the property. I mean, it's spectacular. It's like something that like you would want to go to just completely turn off. And like we really honed in on like the old like 1920s, 30s like camp vibe with our vintage colors. We created our own scent with Mac Lab in Portland. So like all of our shampoos, conditioners, body washes, and lotions have like an original scent that's just unique to our property. There's nowhere else on earth. So like after you sit in the cedar tub and you like take a shower, like you smell like Clydesdale Outpost.
Wait,
you can buy that in our gift shop.
Wait, you guys created your own scent? That actually might be the smartest thing I've ever heard. What does it smell like? How did you develop it? Yeah,
so we worked with Mac Lab in Portland that kind of does stuff like that. And basically we like said, this is like the tone and the nostalgia that we want to capture. And like, so they sent us all these samples, and I think we did like 3 rounds of samples, and then we settled on one, like as a big group, like with the new employees and stuff like that. So it was like really fun because we all got to pick like what we wanted the outpost to smell like. And we even like have oils of it. So it's like sprayed into the cabins and in the welcome center. But yeah, it really like sets the tone, and people like buy that. Like we get orders on our online store all the time. Like we're like, how did this person in like Ireland know about like our lotions? It's like really funny.
Can I ask how much it was to start or to create the scent?
To create it was free. Yeah.
And then you buy all of the products from the company.
Full of that. Yeah.
I gotcha. And then Mac Labs creates the actual products.
They create the bottles and labels and everything.
No way.
Pretty awesome. Yeah. They're very, very backed up. I will tell you that.
Are they?
Like, cause they have like their like go-to big wholesale clients. Like they work with like a lot of big people. So it's like, just to even get an email back, sometimes I'm like, cause now we want to do candles. We want to, cause people are like, I want this scent, like it's really funny.
Yeah.
So just to get an email back, it takes a long time, but they are amazing at what they do.
I want to get one. I want to create my own stargazing home scent. I think that would be.
I know, you should.
That's incredible. Okay, so back to a story about what that a guest had, or maybe that you guys had, that kind of depicts.
I guess there isn't like one specific one, but we have had like just in the short amount of time, like people have already come back like 4 times, like every season. So like that just tells you that we did create something that is special and unique, and everyone has their own experience. But what's so spectacular, and this happens a lot, is that people come to our property and they know all of our horses' names. Like they're like, oh my gosh, that's Destiny, or that's Pendleton. And, like, and we're like, how did you guys know that? Like, it's so funny. And they're like, just because of social media. Like social media is so powerful. It's one of the most amazing marketing tools ever. Like just being on TikTok is like, you can get so many eyeballs for just the time it takes to make that video. Like it's such a worthwhile investment to make those videos. That's so amazing. There's like a not conceived, but just like there's like an attachment to our property for some people who just haven't even been here. So like when they get here, then it's like even more overwhelming for them. It's pretty cool.
I love that. I want to ask how you have a background in film. how did you do you have like does your guest manager do the TikToks? Do you do the TikToks? Who runs your social media? And then how were you able to kind of like learn the different aspects of social media regarding properties?
I do all of that. So I don't have like a social media manager or anything. And I get so much joy out of it that I don't know if I will, unless I absolutely don't have any more time. I have like talked to multiple people about it, like taking over it, but it's so much fun. And I taught myself how to do it. Like, it's not like I knew what I was doing. Like, I had no idea. Like, I think they just hit 26,000 Instagram followers, which for some people is a lot. Other people, it's like nothing, right? But
I mean, that's for a property. That's amazing for having no like personal behind the account and just strictly a property. That's incredible, man.
Yeah, it's been really cool. And just like seeing something that you grew from one follower to that is like pretty incredible. So it's just been a lot of trial and error. It's been working with like different influencers to get them out here and like them posting about it. We just were on The Price is Right as a gift, which was really cool.
That's amazing.
I think we'll be on like Let's Make a Deal here soon. So we're getting like really cool exposure. But like you said, it's all about the experience and like where else can you go in the world where you can like ride and be with Clydesdale horses and like be in a timber frame cabin on like 92 acres with like a river. There's like nowhere else. Like I don't think there is anywhere else. So
I couldn't have said that better.
Very unique.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And that's what people are craving. People really crave unique, one-of-a-kind experiences. And I think that's where we'll see a lot of Airbnbs just go away that are just your typical like houses, right? People want to have that experience. And I think that's what your podcast is highlighting.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's it. It's creating those unique experiences because, I mean, I'm sure that you remember in Washington, you and Ben sitting there with your horses and having your first or second guest and seeing how they feel and seeing their reaction when they're able to get on a horse and stay the night and then wake up and really take in the whole experience that you guys offer. I could only imagine that the way forward, I think our planet would be a lot better if we had more people creating these experiences so that more people could have that joy and that experience. And I think it's quite frankly, from a spiritual standpoint, healthy. Like I think it's the healthiest thing you can do.
Yeah. I even go into our cabins and like, I'm like, this is like so crazy. Like I built that, like, and like I created this, but it's still overwhelming for me. It's like a very healing place. And when we used to walk the land, like we used to walk the land before we even closed on the deal and just like say like, how are we going to do this? We don't know, but we're going to do it and we're going to figure it out. And I think another really fun thing is like with the horses is like we breed them. So every year we have little baby Clydesdale foals.
Do you sell them?
If people are, we don't sell them right now, but in the future we'll probably run out of room and have to.
Yeah. Put me on the wait list.
What's fun is like guests can stay with us and like experience like a Clydesdale birth, or like see them the next day. And then whoever's staying on the property, we like include them in naming that little foal. So it's kind of fun for them.
That's incredible. I love that. Matt, man, I so appreciate you being on the podcast today. And I so appreciate you letting me pick your brain and what you're doing. Quick question before, what's the future kind of look like for you guys?
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of like need to just like wrap our heads around this, like, and continue for the next year or two. But ultimately we'd like to build more cabins. We do have weddings out here, which is another actually revenue stream. And is unique because they can like ride in on a Clydesdale horse. Like it's like super magical and cool for brides. So probably building a larger event center. Like I would love to build a restaurant out here and kind of like just make it this like one of a kind unique resort that's near a national park and near one of the coolest little mountain towns in Montana. So we'll see.
I love it. Where can people find you?
Clydesdaleoutpost.com.
Sweet. And then on socials?
Yep. You can type in Clydesdale Outpost and we'll come up. Yeah.
I love it. Thanks again so much for being on, and we'll chat soon, man. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Nice to meet you.